What we're doing today in this bathroom, they have a 15-minute manual timer. You turn the fan on and it automatically turns off. It's been 15 years since this has been installed, so it's not working. I'm gonna actually take it out and I'm gonna put a digital timer in there. Very first thing I'm gonna do is go to the electrical panel and I'm gonna turn off the breaker, and then I'm gonna use this flashlight so that I can see. So I'm gonna walk to the garage. Your panel is gonna be in the garage. It might be in one of the rooms, and it could be a downstairs mechanical room. It could be on the outside of the house. This one is here in the garage. And then there should be one that's labeled main bedroom or main bathroom. Let's see, that's a bedroom, living room, office, kitchen, jetted tub, main bath right there, 24B. Go to 24B. If the panel is labeled correctly, then that should have the power off. We'll walk back into that bathroom and see if the power is off. The power is currently off. I'm going to take this knob. This knob should just come right off. I may have to take something and pry it just a little bit all the way around. And I should be able to pop this knob right off. And I'll take these two screws out. Set the screws aside because you won't want to lose them. And you'll notice we have this little nut here that holds the cover in place. Just spin that off. Notice I just have a pair of needle nose pliers here. Pull that off. Pull your cover off, set it aside. And then I'm just gonna pull the screws out, and this will allow me to pull the old timer out and expose my wires. Using the right tool for the job does make all the difference in the world. Your new switch should have screws, but I will set these aside just in case. And then I'll expose the wires. They're just wire nutted on. You reach in there with my needle nose pliers. It looks like I'll want to get this other switch out of the way just to make it easier for me to work on it. A lot of times you don't need to take the other switch out because the wires will just pull out. On this one, it's just going to make it easier if I just remove the switch and give me access to all the wires behind it. Looks like that previous timer did not have a ground wire hooked into it, but there is a ground wire here. All right, that exposes our wires. This here is tied in with a damper. So downstairs, when the fan comes on, the damper opens. That's why it has a second wire here, but this is my switch leg. You should have a hot all the time. You'll notice that that's the case because it's also feeding hot over to this other switch. Then you'll just have one wire coming off that's feeding over. I can see that the sheetrockers with their router nicked that wire. I may need to clean that up a little bit. It's worked fine for 15 years. I don't want it to fail later, but you can see that the router did nick that when they were sheetrocking. A lot of times what they'll do is take their router and stick it inside the box and router around it, and if your wires aren't pushed all the way back, then there's a good chance that router will nick the wires, and it looks like that might have been what happened here. Now I know that I've got my hot here, and then I've got my switch leg over here, which is also, as I mentioned before, going down to the damper. That just helps circulate fresh air throughout the house whenever this fan is on. I'm going to simply remove those wire nuts, set them aside. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to open up my new switch. You'll see on it that it requires a neutral, which is the white wire. It does require ground, which I have. And then I have my hot and my switch leg. We still want that damper downstairs to come on when the fan comes on. You'll see that this is 10, 20, 30, and 60-minute timers. They can turn it on and then leave, then it'll just shut off whenever it's ready to be shut off. And then you can look here on the back. It'll explain to you which one is your hot and which one is your switch leg. If you look on the back here, you'll see red goes to your load, which is your light fixture. And the blacks is your hot. So the red will go to the light fixture. So we're just gonna take that same wire nut and go back onto my switch leg, which is the one going up to the fan and then to the damper downstairs. Just snug that up. I'll just take my needle nose, give it just a couple of twists, not to get it over tight, but snug enough. And then I'll need to take this ground wire, straighten that out. I'll need to grab a wire nut. I'm not going to use these that come with it, just simply because I like the wire nuts I use better. These are designed for number 12 wire, but I am going to use a different wire nut for that. All right, for that ground, I'm going to simply take that wire nut, put those two ends together, and I'm going to take that wire nut and twist it on. Get that snug. Just give it a couple of extra twists. I just like to do that just to make sure it gets a good connection. And then I've got my hots. And I'm going to take the black one, which is my hot, get my ends all together. Once I have them all together, put that wire nut back on. Once again, take my needle nose pliers, give it a couple of turns, make sure it's good and snug. And I reach in there and find my neutral. There's my neutral. It's got a big blue wire nut on there, which is good because we're going to add one more to it, and that big blue is designed to take another wire nut. Sorry, another wire. Stick that in there. Make sure it's at the end, meeting up with all the other ones. Get that tightened in there. Take my needle nose, twist it a few more times just to get it good and snug. Alright, the switch, the wires are all made up on the switch. Doesn't look like the wire's cut from the router. Looks like it's just nicked, just barely. Actually, yeah, it doesn't look like. Well, maybe so. So I'm just going to take a little bit of electrical tape. Plenty of options of electrical tape. I'm just going to take a little piece, and I want to wrap it around that exposed copper. One wrap's good for 600 volts. So I'm just gonna wrap it a couple of times just to keep it from being a challenge later down the road. And then I'll just carefully tuck those wires back in there. And take my screwdriver. You got a cordless drill, feel free to use it. And we will put that back in where we took it out. The bottom end, get the top in. The same bottom and the top. I like to make sure that see how it's got the slot in the bottom of the switch. I like to get that as close to center of that slot as I can. Just like that. And then we're going to take this one, slide that wire in there. Looks like I need to create a little more space in the back. So I want to carefully take that ground wire and maneuver it back in there a little further. Being really careful not to nick any of my wires in doing so. Ground's a bare one. And that'll give me the most room. Here's another part of that ground wire. Let me just twist that. There we go. And that should give me enough room. Get that switch in there. As I mentioned before, it should have some screws that come with it, which it does. You could also use the same two screws you took out of the other switch if you chose. Then we're just going to put these screws in the same holes. This also has the same slot in it where the screw goes in. You'll see that slot there. I want to try to keep it as close to the center as I can. That way when I go to put the cover on, the cover will fit just exactly like we need it to get the cover on it just right. Just get that snug. You don't want to over tighten it. Just get it good and snug. Push it over just enough to center that. Hold that in place. All right, that is done. I can take something and carefully straighten that up just a little if need be. Turn that off. I can see that in my haste and the fact that I'm far from perfect, I just put that switch in upside down. Don't want to do that. I want to be able to turn it on going up and off going down, and I did that just the opposite and put it upside down. Not uncommon if you're not paying attention. My focus was the other switch and I wasn't paying attention, and I installed it upside down. And I'm going to take that switch and I'm going to simply carefully flip it around. See how easy that is? Been doing this for 32 years. Still easy to make minor mistakes. There we go, just like that. Let's turn that off. We're gonna walk back in the garage, turn that breaker back on, close our panel up. You'll see here that this cover that was on it will not go back on there, but I have one out in the shop that is the right one. Flip that on, you see the light came on. Now I'll go find a cover in the shop and we'll get the cover on it and we'll be done. All right, so I went out to my shop and I happened to have another cover that I needed. And I'll just simply open it up. You'll notice I already picked up all the garbage. Threw it all away. Job's not done until the garbage is cleaned up. I'll just open that bag, get to my screws. I want to go ahead and put the screws in the slots. And if I lined up my switches correctly, then it should just go right on with no challenge. We'll see how I did. I like to have my screws horizontal. Some electricians like them one way, some electricians like them the other way. I simply like them horizontal. So if we want it just to come on for 10 minutes, if you're in just for a short time, just hit it once. 10 minutes later, it's going to turn off. Hit it again, it'll set it for 20 minutes. Again for 30 minutes. If you're going to take a long shower for 60 minutes, you have the fan on just to get the moisture, keep mildew from building up everywhere around. And then let's say you just want it on and you don't want it to shut off, just hit the hold button for a few seconds and it kicks on. Then it's going to stay on until you turn it off yourself, and then it's off. This is the one I have in my master bath. And I usually have it on for about 30 minutes. And like I mentioned before, it's tied in with my whole house fan, or actually my damper, and it circulates fresh air throughout the house when any of my bathroom fans are on. So there you have it. We are done. Voila.